Yes, I got it, I got it. No, he's quicker, he's quicker. Ah!
Last Friday, I took a Performance Model 3, the brand new one, fresh off the line, to the drag races. I also took my Model 3, which has dual rate suspension. It's lowered 1.5 inches, meaning it should have better traction. It also has 20-inch rims with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, meaning it should be really grippy. Wanted to see how my car stood up against the Performance Model 3. And my friend Chad from Frunk Yeah Rentals here in San Diego also brought a regular Model 3 with the 19-inch sport wheels with no other upgrades or anything like that to see how these all kind of stacked up. Now, the normal rear-wheel drive Model 3, which is what I have, goes 0 to 60 in reported 5.1 seconds, whereas the performance one is said to go 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. However, my buddy Eric has been testing this and he got it down to 3.18 seconds from a 0 to 60 time, which is incredibly quick. That is much quicker than reported. Even though it may only seem a 0.4 second difference, I wanted to see essentially what that difference was on the racetrack. And so that was the idea behind this test. I also wanted to see if the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires I have and the lowering kit I have makes a difference at all between my car and a regular Model 3 without those upgrades. So the track is an 1/8 mile track. It's not a regular 1/4 mile track, so the times may be a little bit different here, but I'm gonna run you through each of these races and then we'll look at the data to see exactly kind of how these vehicles performed. So race 1 was between the Performance Model 3 in red and the regular Model 3, not mine, that's been modified, in black. And as you see these guys take off, you can tell immediately how much quicker the red Model 3 is, the performance version. I also took a shot down at the finish line to show you essentially what that difference is like. That was a separate race, but it illustrates essentially how big of a difference that was. So if we look at the data between those races right there, between the regular Model 3 long range rear wheel drive 19-inch sport wheels and the Performance Model 3 without any of the performance upgrades, you can see that the long range Model 3 lost all 3 times that it raced, with the highest it got on the miles per hour of 81.96 in the 1/8 mile, whereas the P3D, the Performance Model 3, was going upwards of 90 miles per hour. The reaction time, which speaks to the driver's ability to react once the Christmas tree, as they call it, lights up, you can see that one of those, the long range, was 1.88 seconds, which is terribly slow. A perfect time would be 0.50. So all in all, these guys weren't really that great at their takeoff times, but it didn't matter because they all were pretty similar there. Now, the elapsed time is how long it actually took them to race. And you can see that there was a big disparity here. Even if you look at, for example, this race 1, the reaction times were very similar. 0.01 seconds different, 1/100th of a second difference, practically the same. However, the elapsed time, how long it actually took them to cross the finish line, over a full second difference, which in an 1/8 mile is an eternity. Now in the next race, it really wasn't a fair comparison because the takeoff of the regular Model 3 was a full second behind the performance one, so it didn't have a chance out of the gate. And then on the last one, the Performance Model 3 actually was quite a bit behind the regular Model 3. However, it was able to accelerate much quicker, achieving almost 90 miles per hour top speed, giving it an elapsed time of 7.8 seconds till it hit that 1/8 mile mark. So then you have me driving my Model 3, which is again lowered with a 1.5-inch dual rate springs from Unplugged Performance, and I have the 20-inch turbine wheels from EV Wheel Direct with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. This should give me a bit of an advantage over the regular Model 3, which doesn't have those upgrades. I still don't think I should stand a chance here against the Performance Model 3. Let's have a look. On the first race, you can see that I had a really good takeoff. My reaction time was actually quite good. In fact, it was too good. I red lighted, which means I kind of had a false start. It was just barely ahead of the actual time that I could have taken off though. Now on the next one, when I went, the reaction time was a bit better, but again, it was a red light, another false start. Not that it would have mattered. I think I was just trying to jump the gun a little bit and really get ahead. As you can see, it didn't quite matter. On the next race, I was able to get the takeoff down to where we were pretty close. I didn't do a false start. I didn't red light. I didn't get any problems. But again, the car was just so much quicker than mine. I really didn't stand a chance. So looking at that data from those races between me in my upgraded Model 3 versus the Performance one, it's a similar story to the one we just saw. In fact, I actually did win one of the races, this first one here, where Richard, who was driving the Performance Model 3, had a takeoff time of 2.2 seconds, where mine was 0.62. Remember, a perfect time is 0.50, so pretty close, doing pretty good on the takeoff, or at least I feel good about it. However, my top speed was only 72.81 miles per hour, where his was 86, and then my elapsed time overall was 9.15. So it didn't matter because his takeoff time, his reaction time was so much greater. I was able to make that up and win that one race. On the next race, you can see that my reaction time, as I said, was just slightly ahead of that 0.50, which you need to be perfect. So if you're below a 0.50, you're going to get red lighted. You're going to lose no matter what. I don't think it would have mattered here. I really need a full 2-second head start in order to have a chance against this car. On the next race, I was a bit more conservative and I had a takeoff time of 0.77, whereas Richard was getting a lot better here with the 0.87. Still not great, but able to achieve almost 90 miles per hour top speed for him with an overall lapse time of 7.81, where I was still above 9 seconds. Then on the last one, you can see I jumped the gun entirely and didn't even try, only got up to 55 miles per hour, whereas Richard actually ran a really great time there with the 0.63 takeoff, one of his best, and then almost 90 miles per hour top speed with a elapsed time of 7.84 in the 8th mile. So that answers the question about the Performance Model 3 versus the regular. It's not even a contest, and you can see a full second, almost 2 seconds of difference in some cases. Even when your takeoff times are very similar, it is just a much quicker vehicle all around. So the next question was, what about my Model 3 versus a regular kind of stock Model 3? It should be quicker, and we have some really interesting results here. So let's take a look at the first race between me with the darker rims versus the regular Model 3 in the silver rims. I feel like I had a good takeoff on this one. I still was able to get quite a bit ahead, and I ended up winning this race. However, Chad was right on my heels with that, and I just barely pulled off that win. We'll take a look at the data in a second. Feeling good about that though. The takeoff I felt was really strong. On this next one, our takeoffs were almost identical. In fact, we'll look at the data. They were literally identical. We found later that because his car had quite a bit more charge than mine, he actually was able to achieve a higher top speed and win this race and the following race. On this last one, again, I feel good about the takeoff and I felt like I had a chance. It was extremely close. You can see my reaction. I was in the other lane, so you couldn't see his car, but we were neck and neck the entire way. And I thought I might have won this one, even though it turns out that I didn't. So let's take a look at the data now between the regular Model 3 and mine, which has been upgraded slightly. Here you can see on the first race where I'm the 3LR-M and his is the 3LR. The top speeds were pretty close. He got 81.867. I got 79.5. His reaction time was 0.2 seconds slower, so that's actually translates to a big difference there. I ended up winning this one, even though his elapsed time was less, just because of that extra bump I had on the reaction time. So that can really make or break your race in terms of if your cars are very similar in terms of the speed and all that. However, this didn't last long. On the next race, you can see that our reaction times were identical. In fact, it was 0.666 to 0.667. So 1,000th of 1 second difference, practically the same takeoff. However, because his car had more charge, he was able to achieve a higher top speed, 81.52, where I still hit that 79.5 from my previous race, giving me an elapsed time of 9.09 and him an elapsed time of 8.96, giving him the win just barely. These were fun races because they were so close. And on the last one, it again was pretty close. My takeoff was really good at 0.57. Remember, a perfect takeoff is 0.50, where his was 0.73. So I thought I had a chance. However, his battery being charged up more than mine, a significant amount more, just gave him the edge there. He was able to achieve a higher top speed and as a result, edge me out just by a couple tenths of a second. So the last thing I wanted to look at with this data was what actually were the overall stats, because some of these numbers are pretty incredible. And if you go look at the website, which is racelegal.com, this is the group that runs the races here in San Diego, you can see kind of where other cars are under the recent winners and where these stack up. It's pretty incredible. So if we just kind of look at the overall stats for the three vehicles in our race here, you can see that the median miles per hour for me in my Model 3 modified was 79.5. The long range with the added battery capacity or the added charge level was 81.74. So it actually makes a big difference. Whereas the performance Model 3 is almost 90 miles per hour, 89.46. That's incredible. Now, I put this on here just to make myself feel a little bit better that the reaction time, again, this is how essentially good of a driver you are. This was only my second time going. With the 0.62, feeling good about that. Not bad on Chad's part with the 0.88 and Richard with the 0.98. Doesn't really matter because his car is just so much quicker. But again, this was their first time, so, you know, not to be expected. And we'll go do it again and see kind of how this pans out next time. But for now, I feel good about myself, and that's why I put that on there. Next, we have the median elapsed time. So how long did it take you to go from the start to finish? Me with 9.11, Chad with 8.96, and then Richard with 7.81, which is incredibly quick. The max miles per hour, I was just under 80 miles per hour, whereas Chad was just above it, almost 82 miles per hour, and Richard just crushing it at 90 miles per hour in an 8th mile. And the quickest race we had for the whole day, mine was a 9.03, which would have been great if I was racing in the correct class, whereas Chad got an 8.93 and Richard coming in hot with a 7.80. So after driving that car around for quite a bit that day and doing all kinds of different stuff with it, it definitely makes me want one. I think for the value, if you want a really quick car that is just going to blow the doors off anything else on the road pretty much, it's worth the money for sure. Now they also get free supercharging, which is another added bonus, especially if you're going on longer trips. And it's something to think about. You know, Richard's version here didn't have the performance upgrade. He didn't spend the extra $5,000 for the red brake calipers or the 20-inch wheels or the different rotors or the higher top speed, which probably is kind of meaningless for most people anyways, or the rear spoiler. If I were to do it, I would probably buy those things because I kind of want that look, but then I would get rid of the wheels because I really don't like, for that money, I don't like those wheels. So I would probably get different wheels, probably the turbines that I have now just on that car. And who knows, maybe down the road, I'll make that purchase. Free supercharging, unlimited supercharging is ending September 16th, which isn't too far away. So me and you and anyone else don't have long to make that decision if we wanna take advantage of that. So lots to think about, I'm gonna go do this again. We'll kind of get some longevity here, some longitudinal data, look at it over time and see, you know, different battery charge levels, kind of where we're at, because I think that plays a big factor here. And I've also heard other people say that, so some real data showing that. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, when you free the data, your mind will follow. I'll see you back here in the next one.